Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special best practices webinar. I can't believe it's February's almost over. We're talking about feedback and how feedback has changed my operation. Before I get into some details, set the table for this amazing webinar. I want to tell you that all of our webinars are recorded, and you can find them very easily by going to transfinder.com. At the top left of that page, you'll see the YouTube icon, and then we have it posted usually a day, sometimes the same day as the webinar, or within the next day or two. And so, what's great about that is you can share it. I think that is really important. Maybe you want your team to see if you're really bragging about how awesome your team is. It's good for them to see that. It may also stir some conversation within your team. Maybe you want your district leadership to see something as well. So I just want to encourage it for you to take a look at that, all of them. So we have really quite an archive of best practices webinars. And again, we're always looking for panelists. And I'll get to this at the very end of the webinar, but whether you're a Transfinder client or not, the goal here is always to get the best of the best to share what works for them and see how that can be implemented at other departments. And I know in this industry, especially, we just talked about, Anthony may share this later, but how another department has borrowed an idea from him and his department. And that's happens all the time in this industry. And I think it's wonderful because at the end of the day, it's about the safe transportation of students. And if somebody has a better way to do something, I think we all want to learn from that. Um, so going into Arnold, you can go to the next slide. Arnold Bird, by the way, I want to thank him, colleague of mine, extraordinaire, and just a super help. I want to talk about this is the panel. First of all, I'll introduce them. Some of them are going to come on a little bit later. So John Fergerson, a former top transportation teams winner. He's at a Klein ISD in Texas. Loeve, Assistant Transportation Director at Thrall ISD in Texas. Teri Mapengo, a current top transportation teams winner. She's the Director of Transportation at Prosper ISD. So yes, we are heavy on Texas today, warmer climes. Matthew Schultz, I think, is going to be joining us shortly. Transportation Director at Hilton Central School District in New York. And then Anthony Shields, Transportation Director at San Marcos in Texas as well. I'm Rick DeRico. I'm the Director of Public Relations here at Transfinder, and I'm also going to be the moderator. And you can go to the next slide just so people can look at something while I'm talking. I just got back from a trip to Florida to see my third grandson who was born just 2 weeks ago. To my son and daughter-in-law. He's a junior, which is awesome. And so right off the bat, you get feedback forms. Airbnb wants to know was your stay? The airline wants to know. Every restaurant we went to wants to know feedback. So feedback is really, really important, and it can have maybe some people get a knee-jerk reaction when they hear the word feedback too. And so we're going to talk to our panelists a little bit about that as well. Maybe when you were younger, it wasn't a positive experience. Maybe a teacher, I think I had a German teacher say that I was a dumb cough, and it took me a couple of years to look it up and realize that that was not a compliment. That just came to mind. Wow, holy cow, all these years later. So feedback can sometimes seem like maybe some people, it makes them cringe, but we can always change that paradigm. And one of the key aspects, and why we're talking about this today, is the Top Transportation Teams program, which is, by the way, free for every single school transportation department in North America to participate in. That could be a school district or it could be a bus contractor they've all been winners to participate in this program. And one of the key components is that your entire team will answer a survey of like 20, 25 questions, and it'll be anonymous. That another thing that can make people feel like nervous because what if they say something really mean? And we all understand that. And it goes over various categories. It talks about, that their ideas are valued, that their role in the department is valued, that they would be willing to recommend their department to a friend to come work for, which we know is all more and more critical these days with the driver shortage. If you have all of your employees feeling like, I'm going to tell all my friends to come work for us, um, that says a lot about your team. And I have heard many people share those kind of stories. So, we're talking about this because the Top Transportation Teams program is open right now for enrollment. I'll have a slide at the end where you can get the ball rolling. But at Transfinder, we are part of several different programs that have to do with like best places to work programs. And it involves a very extensive survey that all of our employees take. And one of the things that early on, there was, not early on, but like, 10 years ago, we didn't always win those awards. And I remember our CEO, Antonio Civitella, buying the surveys. We don't charge, by the way. So we give all the results at the end of the program, and you will get them. And you will not know who said what, but you will see like where you're strong. And that's great. So we're doing well. We're gonna just keep bolstering that. And then, oh, here's some areas here where we maybe got a 7 out of 10. And those are areas that we can improve upon. Um, we went over this very extensive survey and we did it a couple times. And Tony brought all the leadership in and we sat around the table and we went over, okay, what can we do today? What can we do? What's a little bit of a shorter term goal that we could do within a week or two? And then what are some longer term things? And what are things that are, probably not going to happen? We're not going to have a company wide trip to Disney World. I don't know, I'm making that up. But so that's one of the things that we have heard from participants in top transportation teams that they've done. And they each have different ways of doing it, of how they took those results and made their teams even better. So again, it's not just the winners that get the results, everybody who participates. And that's why I want to strongly encourage as many departments as they can, as is out there, to participate in this program because we really believe in it. And our goal is to help every department do better, as we constantly want to do better. I'm sure you're going to get a survey after this webinar asking how was the webinar. So you'll get your feedback as well. I want to encourage people to participate who are attending, and I appreciate everybody who's attending, to ask a question. There's a chat section and a Q&A. I don't see the Q&A right now in my screen. Maybe it's just a chat section. To tell us what you think about feedback. So go ahead and jump in there if you want to. You want to tell me where you're coming from, and the temperature. Tony always likes to know that. If he were here right now, he'd want to know where are you and what's the temperature. But I also want to know what's your thoughts on feedback. You can just give me 1 word, 2 words, positive thoughts about it, whatever, and I'll make sure I add that to our discussion here today. Again, I really do want to see where the Q&A. Do Q&A, please. Don't do the chat. That would be a better spot for you. Okay. So a couple quick quotes and then we'll get into it. But I'm hoping everybody will jump in. So please tell me where you're from, the temperature, and your quick thoughts on feedback, and I will share it with everybody else. Okay. Bill Gates says we all need people who will give us feedback. That's how we improve. I mean, there's somebody who's super successful, and I think maybe he's saying that he didn't get there without that kind of feedback. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. That's Ken Blanchard, known for the 1 Minute Manager and among other books. There is no failure, only feedback. Robert Allen, another author. And withholding feedback is choosing comfort over growth by Adam Grant. That's really a powerful one as well. That actually, if you really care about somebody, you're going to want to give them feedback. I just thought of an analogy real quick. When oh my goodness, I lost his name. A quarterback left the Giants. He was there for just a year or two. Oh my goodness, I lost his name. Anyway, before he left, he wrote a whole long letter to the coach, and they were very close. And he wrote down like, "You will have this team, like take any hill for you, but you got to fix this." And he gave a long list. And apparently, when the Giants did win the Super Bowl against the Patriots, he had that like in his back pocket, if anybody remembers, it's one of my favorite quarterbacks too. Anyway, it's a good story. All right, gonna go to the next slide, please. And here's what we got. We got Dana from New Jersey, 40 degrees is today, so that's a positive. I feel like it's hard to get candid feedback because folks fear that the survey is not truly anonymous. That's a very fair point. I will tell you that ours is really truly anonymous. There's no, it is. I know you got to trust me on that, but we need honest feedback in order to improve. Thank you, Jeannie, for sharing that. She's in New Mexico. Okay, just again, some words that come up. You've got negative there and positive. Those kind of stand out. Um, okay, next slide, please. I like to give feedback better than getting it. Dana, very fair statement. I kind of feel the same way. Very fair statement. Here's some little, just some thoughts about, there's surveys, there's opinion, how do you respond to the feedback? We're going to get into all of this. A comment, ratings. So if my airline, if they start seeing negatives in some of the flight attendants service or something, they're going to say, hey, we're seeing a dip here. What's going on? That kind of thing. And advice. Okay. And then next slide, please. Keep those coming, those feedback quotes and thoughts, because that's very valuable. Okay. And now we're going to get right. Nope, that's the right slide. Thank you. We're going to get right deep into it. And if you have a question for a specific person, or if you have a question for the panelist in overall, just throw it in there and I will get to it really as quick as possible. My goal is always to get what's percolating in the audience in front of the panelists. So, without further ado, I'd like to first ask, let's see, we have Anthony. We're going to go down the line. Anthony, Teri, and Lori, and then hopefully we'll get John and Matthew on as well. Tell me, first of all, a little bit about your career path and where you are right now. Maybe a little bit about your district, how many students you transport, just so we get a sense of who's on.
Absolutely. Good morning again, everybody. Name's Anthony Shields. I'm from San Marcos, Texas, at San Marcos CISD. We're just south of Austin, Texas. If you need a big city to figure out where that is in the big state of Texas. I'm the director of transportation here for San Marcos. I am currently in year 19 or 20 of pupil transportation, and I've had quite an exciting career. Started as a substitute teacher and then became a bus driver, and kind of stayed in transportation and worked my way up to director. I like to say I can do just about anything within the department except for fixing a bus, but you never know what the future holds. Um, it's been a journey, working my way up and getting to see how the operations actually works and what can work best and what could need some tweaking. And so uh, I think that programs such as Top Transportation Team has been great because it's enabled me to be able to uh, get said feedback from the staff and kind of improve things, but B, really just utilize that and enhance our operations. So it's definitely been a great thing here in our department. Here in San Marcos, we are a smaller district. We have about 10,000 students total. We're transporting about 5 to 6,000 of those students. And so we keep pretty busy every day. We like to have fun and make sure that we're doing what's right, but also have a lot of fun while doing it.
Thank you so much. When Texas people talk and they say smaller little district, most of the rest of the country is like, huh? Like small little, it's like even where we are, I mean, like you guys would be a mega district. Uh, thank you so much. And you made me think about, you know, um, the survey and how it's helped your department. And sometimes you can even blame the survey. Say someone says like we need to do more than, hey, we don't like it. I'm sorry. This is what the survey said, guys. So we're trying to, improve it. You can blame this anonymous survey. Thank you. Teri, thanks for
Yeah,
joining us. Tell us a little bit
hello.
about your career path in your district.
Yes, I'm Teri Mapengo. I'm the director for Prosper ISD, that is Dallas area. I have been in transportation for about 13 years. Started as a bus driver, I was a stay-at-home mom when I first moved here to Texas, and just wanted to find something in the school district that I could have my breaks off the same way as my kids, and that's kind of what set me into this career path, and worked my way up. And same with Anthony. I could probably do about any job, but just don't put me in dispatch because that one is tough, I'll tell you. Um, so I have a special place for my dispatchers. I'm like, put me on a bus before you guys go out. Um, I again am one of the top transportation teams, and because of this survey has really truly helped be able to gauge how my department's going. And so the first year that we did this, we didn't win. And so we took that to heart and kind of looked at those comments um, of what we saw and changed some things, and ended up becoming one of the top transportation teams this year. So that was really cool, and a lot of hard work that was put in through my team.
That's great. And don't forget, I'm gonna ask you, I wrote a note to make sure, about what things did you change, based on that
Yes.
feedback. And I like the word you used about gauging. That's really good because you can kind of think that everything's going well, and then a
Hmm.
survey comes out and you go, oh, I thought we were really good in that area. And so that's actually a really great word to use. I will tell you guys at the top transportation teams panel discussion in Nevada, one of Teri's former colleagues was in attendance. If I'm not misremembering this, and uh, just had to speak out about Teri's leadership, but also how she helped her get better. And Teri is known for post-it notes all around people's offices, right, in their cubicles or whatever. And long after Teri had left, she found one more, I think, under a keyboard or something, and she got a little weepy as both of them were talking about that. Now I'm like, that's leadership. And I think you had built a rapport to give maybe even not always easy to take feedback, right? Is
Hmm.
if I've had football coaches and others that like I knew that they cared about me, and then so they could give me tougher feedback in a way because they'd invested in me. It wasn't just being critical. So
Yeah.
good stuff. So we'll get to that, Teri. So remember, what kind of things did you specifically change as a result of that feedback? And Lori Lovey, last but not least, thanks for joining us. And we're not talking about top transportation teams with you per se, but we will next year, right, Lori?
Right.
Um, but you do have some feedback stories, so we're going to get to those early on. But tell me just a little bit about your career path and your district.
I'm with Thrall ISD. We're about 45 minutes east of Austin. We are a small district. We have about 900 students, high school, middle school, elementary combined. We transport about 300 of those. Um, Prior to working here, I worked in the dental field, and I, like Teri, wanted something to be available with my kids, kind of have the same routines and schedules. And so 5 of those years I spent driving bus route, and the last few I've been titled the assistant director. Our previous director had been here for over 20 years. And so we are going through a lot of changes, and looking forward to how feedback can help us grow.
That's great. Thank you very much. And again, for attendees, make sure that you have questions or thoughts. Please, you're part of this. Okay. You're very much a part of this webinar. So my first question is really just about your own experience, of it could have been in your current career where you are right now, or it could be previously, just having that you were the one giving the feedback, you were providing feedback. And what was that experience? Was it a positive? Was it a negative? Did something stand out to you in your own experience of being as Dana talked about, I like to give feedback, but in getting it, that you gave feedback, and what was that like? So Teri, you mentioned something, and then Anthony and Lori, if you have anything you want to add as well, that'd be great. But Teri.
Yeah, I mean, even as a leader, I'll give feedback on some situations that are happening, and sometimes my ideas get shot down, and that's okay. As a leader, that's okay to have that because you have other people around you that are smarter than you, and their expertise. That's why you have them on your team. I mean, we just had a snowstorm that hit Texas, and yeah, I came up with not probably the brightest idea for a director, but my fleet supervisor was like, no, I don't think that would be. And I was like, you know what? You're right. That probably would have been unsafe. So no, I'm glad that you spoke up and then we move on. But I think that's that's a good leader is that you're hearing from other people, and it's okay if your ideas get shot down. You want to hear from them. You want them to be able to give you that feedback.
Yes, that's great. And it also shows that you have enough of an open door. You're approachable, that your fleet
Yes.
manager felt like he could, man or woman, he or she could tell
Yeah.
you, you know.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to jump in on that? I'll tell you real
Sure.
quickly. Crystal said that when she gave feedback, it was ignored, and maybe that's an experience people that's not uncommon as well. And then it's like, do you want to keep giving feedback if I feel like no one's really listening to it? Anthony, I see you on mic, unmuted yourself. Did you have something you wanted to share?
Yes, and so I can resonate with the the participant that talked about feedback being ignored, and you're absolutely correct. Sometimes when that feedback is perceived as ignored or not taken seriously, it doesn't feel very good, and so um, you're not wanting to really provide feedback going further. And so, a couple of things. I had a situation in a previous district where I had came up with some ideas as they were looking for feedback in terms of recruiting strategies that we had and things like that. And I thought it was great. I'd seen it happening throughout the nation. Talked about it with colleagues at a couple of the different conferences that we attend. But ultimately, it was shot down, but it stayed with me. So just like, it was that feedback that was, seemingly ignored. It stayed with me so much that it actually was one of the very first things that I talked about in my final interview for the job that I have now. And so, like you said at the beginning of the webinar, it's something we've done here in this district since I've been here, and it's been quite a bit of a success. So much so that my previous district has borrowed the idea, and they do it as well. So um, sometimes when feedback is shut down or perceived as ignored, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not the best thing. It just, you never know when it can come back up in another situation. But that's one example. But just to what Teri said earlier as well, I think it's very important to be able to build that relationship with your staff and let them be comfortable enough to come to you to give feedback or to respond to some feedback or ideas that you may have. One of the things that I'm very, very adamant about, especially with my department's leadership team, it is for them to tell me, when we're hashing out ideas or things like that. It's okay. It's absolutely okay to not agree with the feedback or the idea that we have, or that's being shared. Um, but I also like to challenge them to come up with another solution. So if there is
Ooh,
uh, some sort of idea that's thrown out on the table and no one likes it, then we want to hear a solution or something, more so than why it won't work and things like that. And I think that
I
that puts
love
us
that. That is
right.
great, Anthony. And it does a lot of things there, right? I mean, number one, it's like I hear you. It's also like it's sometimes easy. I mean, sometimes people it's easier to be critical than it is to be constructive, right? Constructive criticism, they kind of that's the term I like to use. Like I want to be constructively critical and not like mean critical. Like I want to help be building up, which construction, right? And so, okay, if that doesn't work, and not in a threatening way, it sounds like you just say, "Hey, come back, let's hear, it, and we'll put it in the hopper here. We'll see if that works." So That's a good idea. Teri, did you do that with your fleet manager and say, "Hey, okay, my idea was not so good. We need something now
Oh,
to
he
deal with
already
this
had
issue."
come up with a solution. So I was like, oh wait, oh yeah, I do like
Perfect.
that idea better. So it was a very
Perfect.
quick, conversation that we were having over text too, and we had all of the supervisors on it, and so I was like, oh no, I like that idea a lot better. Let's go with
That
that.
that's great. I love that. I love that. Now we're going to get to that in a minute too, is how do you receive your feedback, like literally. Text is one. Lori, anything you want to add? I want to make sure I don't skip you if you did have something you want to add in this area.
I got it.
So previously we had had no, structured form of feedback in place. It was just kind of one of those things like I was driving a bus. If we had a complaint or a need for a solution, we would verbally communicate that, and then we might or might not get feedback from that. And so stepping into the role as the assistant, that's kind of our goal, is to find ways where we can communicate with our drivers and our staff and support them in the needs that we have.
Good. All right, we're going to talk about how you receive it. Crystal responded to my point about it not being criticism. And again, I used to be a reporter. I had many different editors read my stories, and depending on the editor, one would, have his or her hands all over it. Others would help try to get in journalism, I use the word voice, get my voice in there. Um, and so I had good feedback, and that's a good feedback. But all of it probably made me a better writer in the end anyway, even the not so good. But Crystal said, it's not criticism, it's just an observation shared. And if someone says, like, I noticed this, it may first not be like Teri kind of alluded to, like it may be a blind area, a blind spot. I have a blind spot, and other people see things, and that's what I love about, when you have a great team and say, "Hey Rick, like you have a little bit of a blind spot for that issue or whatever." And it's like, "Oh, wow, help me be more observant to that." So good point, Crystal. Thank you. So let's talk about how you actually literally receive feedback, not like personally, do you take it personally or not? We'll get to that piece. But what's your format in gathering feedback from your teams? I'm going to start with you, Lori, and go down the other way just to shake it up a little bit. But do you have an anonymous suggestion box, emails, whatever? Tell me, I don't want to say any more than that. Let's throw it out there. How are you gathering feedback?
Currently, we do have a suggestion box. We are also implementing a student management form where information is recorded and then feedback is given on, what actions were taken, and again, just communicating, how we can help and assist both student and our staff.
And are people taking advantage of those avenues?
Yes, it's very welcomed. Like I said earlier, previously we didn't really have a form of feedback. It was just kind of one of those things like you communicated with the previous director and you might or might not, hear back.
You don't know if it's going into like the void somewhere
Right.
out there.
You
So
felt like it was going into the void.
yeah, which is a terrible feeling, especially if you're one of those people that takes your time in writing out like a thoughtful thing and then you don't hear a boo from it. So thank you. Teri, you talked about texting, but what other ways do you get feedback? In as many ways as you can. Tell me what you do.
All right. Well, we have actually after we did the first initial top transportation team survey, we had an idea to do a safety suggestion box, because we were also seeing a lot of things happening with safety. So, and we also worked with our risk management team to, hey, when we get these suggestions that also have a solution, because it's not just the suggestion, that they also come with a solution, or, this would be good if we got this fixed, whether it be trees trimmed, or Or, hey, we have, there's, lighting is horrible out in the lot type of suggestions. Can we get that fixed? Those are those things that were coming in, and we were rewarding through our risk management program those employees that are making those suggestions. So it started creating a different culture. It's more of like a safety culture than, and that everyone was working towards, and they were seeing things that were getting improved upon. We even have, hold on a second. We have these little dolls. Yeah, so we hide these on our buses. This is a suggestion from one of our drivers. We hide these somewhere either outside the bus or inside the bus just to see how we're doing with our pre-trips, because everyone's supposed to, it's required. And so these suggestions are coming in and we're like, we can implement that now. Like, this is a great idea. Let's try it out. Let's see how it goes. And when they find it, before they go on route, they call it in, and then we give them a gift card when they come back in. So, or just a little token of appreciation for making, doing what they are supposed to be doing every day.
It's a random, you pick a random bus. You can't do it obviously in
Random.
all your bus fleet.
Yeah.
You'd go broke, but
Random. So,
that's
and
great.
yeah, so that's one way, is a safety suggestion box. We also have an email that's called safety@prosperisd.com. They can email it as well. And then at our safety meetings, we go over those suggestions. So it's like out and present with everybody so that they can see what's being, and we talk about it. And we see what the feeling is with everybody. So it's not just specific, oh, we're just going to pick and choose. We want to see what, how it's gauging with everybody else. And so those are some of the things that we do in my district, and it's definitely helped with that safety culture here.
That's great. I love it. Anthony, any other ways that you guys receive feedback?
Sure. So we like to communicate back and forth with our staff via text message. We use a program that the district bought into years ago, and so we've dialed it back to where it's not over communicative, but that has seemingly worked out really well for us. I've been in districts where we've done morale committees or safety committees or suggestion committees and things like that. And there's pros and cons to that as well. And so when I moved to my current district, we did have a committee that would essentially receive all of the feedback and bring that to the director or the leadership team. But I kind of wanted to change that a little bit because I felt that I wanted everybody to have the opportunity to bring their feedback and not be afraid to do so. And so just by doing some things internally and making a few tweaks, we've been able to open those lines of communication so that they are able to bring suggestions that they feel are warranted, and they don't have to submit it to a committee. And they also have the ability to send it anonymously as well if they want to. But I think that's been a very big thing for us as well, just to give the staff that power to be able to actually speak their mind if needed.
That's great. I think people feel like when they know that it's like whether it's a literal open door policy, but there's definitely the mindset that there's no one's above getting a suggestion of how we can be better. I mean, I think my CEO would be almost like upset if someone had a great idea or a thought of changing something and they sat on it when they could have contributed it, you know what I mean? And so I think about yeah, just feeling like missed opportunities. And then, Teri, you alluded to this already a little bit, and you can add to that, or if any Lori or Anthony want to give us their thoughts in terms of like once you get these suggestions, and then I want to get into specifics. I'm going to start with you, Lori, just to kind of point to where we're headed about how feedback helped change your operation. How do you prioritize? How do you kind of you get this stuff and you can only do so much. You only have so many man hours to handle these things. So what do you, how do you decide, this is more critical, this we can put not on a back burner, meaning like never, but like it can be down the road. How do you do that?
Well, we have, and there's some things that take time when it comes to the suggestions that they are coming up with. Like we have one where I mean, our drivers see it every day. They're our frontline staff. I mean, they're out there, they're seeing, these safety issues that we're having. And so like getting together with your risk management, we've had a lot of kids on scooters or bikes, and they're riding through our transport, like straight in front of buses. And so
Wow.
they were putting these suggestions, hey, is there something that we can do? Now our campuses are all getting on board, and we're getting like 200 signs from risk management to do a walk your wheels campaign. But it was all because of suggestions that our drivers and monitors were putting in and what they were seeing when they are out there. So, lighting,
And
that's
that
going to
went to the
take
top of
time
the list
too.
because, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, because
Oh,
your front line is telling you
yeah.
this is an issue.
Yeah, this is an issue, and it's happening it's not happening at this school, but it's happening a lot at this school. And so now we're like, finding the exact locations that that's happening. We have videos. We sent it on to our admin. Hey, this is an issue. Someone's going to get hurt. These kids are just coming through like crazy. But it does take time, but it takes a team to get that done. So, and then letting your team know, hey, because of your guys' suggestions, this is now coming into fruition. Like it's happening.
That's a
Um,
good point too. That's a really
and
good point
so,
that,
letting them know like, hey, because of your suggestions, these things are changing, and that it's making this safer here at our district. So, um, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I'm missing,
and
but
and I'm going to throw it out to the attendees as well. Please put in how do you prioritize? Do you have a committee? Do you have,
I think the
different,
biggest thing is the safety thing though. Like if it is a huge safety concern, you're going to have those at your front. Because
yes.
that's all of our, that's what we do is around student safety. So if that, if it's something that you can,
Having
simple,
chili
pre-trip,
Wednesdays, like we need to have chili on Wednesdays versus this sign thing. That kind of took
yeah,
a spot above
yeah,
the chili Wednesdays. I don't
yeah.
know
So
why I came up with that.
yeah, if it has something to do with safety and that we've already seen, like whether it be trips or falls or anything like that, in one location because there's a curb that's not painted or something. Um, it's those things that you can, that's a safety that you've already seen that there's been an issue with, and now let's see how we can get it done.
That's great. Anthony?
I love that. That reminds me of something that we worked really hard with here in my district. One of the big things that I had heard when I first started here was a lot, and it is a little negative, but a lot of frustration around student bus badges and whatnot, just from an implementation that had happened prior to me. Um, until anyways, listening to their feedback, um, and really talking with some of the more vocal staff members about their frustration helped us kind of change the way that we do things, made some procedural changes. And so one of the things that we did is, of course, we worked with our vendors, but we worked with the school as well on proper implementation and getting buy-in from not only them, but the kiddos as well about student badges. And so it took a while. So just to Teri's point earlier that, not everything is instantaneously. It was about a year and a half project that we did that we had to do to fix things, if you will. But the end result was amazing. We went from 25% in terms of student badge usage to we're up in the high 90s now. And so
Wow.
it's been great. And of course, that's a huge win for the staff as well, because that makes things easier for them. Um, but it was a huge win for our department as a whole, because that was a big frustration that they had. And for us to be able to fix that, again, makes things a lot easier. And it shows the staff that, that we are committed to really listening. And if something is viable for us to do to make that better for them, then we'll do what we can to make sure that that happens.
A good point too in that is you said it took a year. I'm sure you probably communicated over the course of that year. So they're seeing the improvement, but also like, you know, sometimes changes, I mean, usually change isn't instant, but it shows that we're moving in that direction. I think it's just like, you know, even just progress can feel like, okay, I can't tell you how many times I've heard the expression like, I can see that you're trying. I say it to my kids, I see, maybe you don't have that C in math. Maybe it's not an A yet, but I can see that you're trying. I see you're at the table. You're doing your homework. You're, getting some tutoring or whatever. I see that does go a long way, to making people feel like we're heard and, we're moving. Lori, any thoughts on that as well in terms of how you prioritize or what your approach is, your team's approach to what we're going to tackle first and next and that kind of thing?
I feel like we have so much to tackle. As I'd said, we are coming out of having a director that was in the position for over 20 years, and have a new director. Change is hard. A lot of our staff has been employed with the district for years, and have driven the same route for years. There's not a lot of change in that aspect, but the growth is changing things, and so it's trying to decide what part of the elephant you bite off first. And ours has been student management. As a driver myself, previously, you get discouraged because you feel like you have, little Johnny on the bus that every day you're having to, stop the bus at a safe spot and address, an issue, and then not feeling like you're getting the support. And so I think for our drivers currently, it's implementing that system where they feel supported and get the help and that they need. And so, we are starting with one problem and have many more to, and not necessarily problem, but things that we need to grow in. And so we're starting with that and seeing improvement there.
Lori,
So I'm
I
going to
love
stick with
that.
you, and then I'm gonna give put Teri and Anthony on notice here. I want to get to the specifics here. So yours is not about top transportation teams. And that's fine. That's awesome. And then anybody who's in attendance, again, please throw your thoughts in Q&A about how feedback, literally as I have it on screen right there, how feedback changed my operation. I'll read as many as I get. So it has to be kind of short for our attendees, but not for you guys. So you can be a webinar panelist in the future, and then you can take the mic. But tell me how you got feedback, set it up for me, what it was, maybe who it came from, not their name, but like maybe their role or whatever, and then how you were able to implement it, and it actually has made a change in your department for the better. Lori, for starting, I'll go to Teri and Anthony. I'll go to Anthony and then Teri. Just really shake it up crazy here. Okay, Lori.
So feedback for us started with a need in a lot of areas, but just student management being one of them. We couldn't do it without our drivers. And so we need to keep them encouraged and feel supported. And so it's dealing with those issues. And so we have a form that they fill out and report, what it is. And then in a timely fashion, it's, taken to the principal of whatever campus. A solution is made. We have kind of a tier of, first warning, it's a warning. Second warning, you're off the bus for 3 days, or a day. I'm sorry, a day. And then third warning, it's 3 days or more, depending on what the incident is. And then understanding that riding the bus is a privilege. The drivers aren't there to babysit you and continue to, make you behave every day. And so having, Transfinder and Wayfinder and all of those things, having them be able to communicate within the system has made, a huge difference for our district.
That's great. And where did you get a suggestion on taking that approach? Who did that come from?
Well, we have had a driver that was, at her wit's end. She's just like every day, I feel like I, text this message or I communicated this message and, I'm still dealing with the same issue and nothing's been done. And so it was realizing like, we need these drivers. We need to support them. And like I said, having been a driver, have been in that same position where it's just like, you just drive and think, oh, it's going to get better. It's not. But knowing that in order to thrive, you really have to make a change and listen to the feedback that's been given and support those drivers.
That's great. It really tampers down that, there's nothing worse than being discouraged, you know what I mean? And feeling like the next day I'm going to be dealing with the same thing. No one's really hearing me. So that's great. Okay, so Anthony, tell me about the survey results. Was there anything that you were surprised by? I know that's a curveball for you, and then say, this is what we did. We got these survey results, and these are some of the areas that we said we were going to tackle. And tell me a little bit about how you did that.
Perfect. So I actually have two things, but the first one is always fun because it's dealing with money. And so one of the things in our feedback that we got back, the survey results was about compensation. That was actually in our survey, I believe that was the lowest indicator that we had. And so it was work that we were doing prior to getting or receiving the survey. But I was able to utilize that along with a lot of the other a lot of the data that I had to get with our human resources department and finance. And so our drivers got a pretty significant raise as a result of being able to give that data as well as the data that we had compiled right before that. So that was a huge win. And
That's
expanding
awesome.
upon that, one of the things that we were able to do as well was really solidify some extra duty opportunities for our staff. Getting a pay raise is great. And, of course, everybody's super appreciative of it. But then, there's always that next piece. Like, we have this pay raise. So what do we want now? We want more money. And so speaking with some of our drivers and monitors, we came up with some solutions for extra duty assignments just to make it so that anybody who really wants the opportunity can have that. So we do something simple, which I think a lot of districts probably already do, but we have a voluntary, if you will, fuel team, whereas we have staff now that'll fuel the buses instead of the drivers fueling their own buses. So that, of course, A, helps the drivers that don't want to fuel their buses, but B, it gives the staff that wants a couple of extra hours to be able to get that. And then we can't leave out our non-CDL staff members as well. So we have plenty of white fleet vehicles that need attention as well. So our monitors help with not only fueling, but detailing, if you will, the white fleet vehicles. We partner with a local car wash dealer or vendor here in the district, and so they can run the white fleet vehicle through the automated car wash and bring it back and fuel it, and takes little to no time at all. So things like that kind of again helped bring buy-in to some of the feedback that we received from the survey, and those have been really, really helpful for us.
That's
One of the
great.
other things that we really honed in on, just like Lori, student management's always a huge thing in just about any transportation department you're going to step foot in. And so from the survey, we had some conversations with our staff. And one of the things that they felt the support, but of course they knew that there's more support that could be had was with bus discipline and things like that. And so we kind of revamped our discipline matrix as a result of that. And I had a sit down with all of the principals and kind of worked with them as well. And so here in our district, we primarily do bus discipline in-house. And so we really just opened up the communication a little bit better with the campus so that we can make sure that referrals that require some sort of intervention from the campus, i.e. suspension or something like that, happens a little bit sooner.
That's great. That's really specific. And, I was thinking one of the big things I know in transportation is also there are some people that want to fill those 8 hours. The gap hurts. So that helps keep them. Teri, how about you?
It's funny that we all three talked about the student management piece because that was one of the things that we were having inconsistency with campuses on their discipline. And so we implemented a student ridership handbook that basically outlined what are like category 1, infractions and category 2, and what how they can support transportation in, when they've had 2 write-ups, now they're getting, whether it be secondary school, getting 3 days off of the bus. But they knew like what was expected and what would help us if they would, be more consistent. So we had that. We also had we had quite a few suggestions about that there was not how am I trying to say it? The culture and the recognition wasn't being, I guess, spread across both locations. I have 2 locations, and that was really hard for me as a director coming into Prosper because I was at my old location where I had everybody in one spot. And so coming to a new that has 2 locations, they didn't see a lot of visibility of supervisors or leadership. It was, sparingly. And so that was hard. Like I saw that and I was like, oh, I don't want them to feel that. So I need to change this. And so we were more intentional with our, the supervisors would, hey, we're going to do a potluck over here and we're going to do something else over here, but they weren't feeling like we were all a team and we were all getting the same recognition and appreciation, I guess, on that piece. So we decided to be more like, if we're doing pancake breakfast here, we're doing pancake breakfast here. If we're doing, and we started doing employee of the month where we have them have a parking spot. I mean, just a simple, that recognition in front of everybody at our safety meetings. And even to that, so we had our, assistant director more visible at both locations. Well, even this year, I'm still trying to push more like even my supervisors that are at those different locations, that they swap and they're getting to know the other employees there. And so that is actually something that's coming up new here, is because I'm wanting to get my supervisors out there in front of the other department so that they can be more visible as well, that they don't just see them at the safety meeting, that they now are building those relationships with them.
I love that, Teri. I think recognition is huge as well. And I think we kind of took some of the feedback that we got from our survey results as well. It wasn't something that was horrible, but we wanted to kind of just take it up a little bit of a notch, if you will.
Yeah.
And so having 2 facilities or more can sometimes be really tough in regards to being able to spread the love out. And so you're absolutely right. One of the things that my leadership team will probably say that I'm probably stating several times a day is we have to do the same thing at each facility, no matter what it is. So like Rick said, food or whatever, we're doing the same thing at both facilities. at
Yeah.
both facilities, and just making sure that we're visible at both as well.
The last
So
thing you
yeah,
want to do is make like, I used to work in at a newspaper that had like 5 bureaus in different counties and stuff. And of course, the mothership is always going to get more, right? Because it's like they're right there. But try to do things like where they can, like, everybody feels like, okay, we're not forgotten. We're not on some distant island over here. And, even encouraging maybe sometimes they may have their own unique personalities too. So maybe some of those, Teri, some of those other places, they say, hey, we want to do this, and maybe you steal that and, put that in the other parts as well. But that's great. It's, at the end of the day, so much of what you're talking about is also just like really communicating. It's like really, it's hearing, it's communicating, we're showing you, we're doing it, we're constantly evolving, constantly looking to find, and what worked 5 years ago, maybe not work today, but, we never did it before is not a bad thing because we can do it now. So there's all that kind of stuff, it's there are some things that people can shoot down and it's like oh yeah, we tried that 10 years ago. I'm like, yeah, but 10 years ago was before AI. So like maybe it'll work now or maybe whatever. Like an idea that we have a different makeup of our team now. So yeah, 10 years ago, the people there, they wouldn't have gone for it. But this group, this is a great idea now. So just being mindful of not just shooting things down, which you guys sound like you're not like that at all. Um, I don't want to jump into. There was one question here from an anonymous person who did not want their name out there, but it's a fair question, and I'm going to throw it out to everybody. I know we're getting close, so it's going to be very hard to answer this quickly. But if you can give maybe one liner, if you can think of something. But what do you do with the driver that's always has something to say, or like basically, lack of a better word, this person says complains about everything. So that's not just feedback. I mean, it's feedback, but it's like if it's 85 degrees, they wish it was 95 degrees, or there's always going to be something. How do you deal with that person that really basically is, always upset? I'm going to go with Lori first, then Teri and Anthony, and then we're going to wrap it up. So as quick as you can think, do you have anybody like that? You don't need to say their name, but how do you
I
deal with
feel
that
like
kind
there's
of person?
always one. And for the most part, I think it's just, you know, different strokes for different folks. It's finding a way to decide, is this working or not working? And sometimes it's just easier if it's not working, just to say, okay, we're going to make a change and we don't need you to drive the bus anymore.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
yeah.
Fair enough. That's good. Teri, how about you?
Uh, you're going to get that all the time. You're going to have someone that's, well, in Frisco, we did it this way.
Yes. Yes.
So it's listening to them. I mean, that's their listening ear, and then, letting them know like, well, this is what we did in Frisco. Okay. Well, that probably works for them. That's great. Or seeing if they have a solution for it. It doesn't mean that you're going to implement it, but you're listening to them. And I think
Yep.
that's that piece that you have to remember. They will be able to gauge how you are in front of them. And so if you are just dismissive, they're going to feel, well, my leadership's dismissive.
Right.
Listen to them, ask them questions. Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming and bringing that to my attention. I'll bring it back to my team and we'll see what we can do.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good response. And do it too. Not just
Yeah.
say it, but do
Yeah.
it. And I know
Yes.
you would, knowing you. Yes. Very good. Anthony, how about you?
real quick, I'm again just big on if you have someone who's always negative. I'm going to use the example of the AC. It's hot here in Texas, and if it's 95 degrees and they want it 85 degrees, a big thing that I would do to that person is, again, like Teri said, just help them be a part of the solution. Kind of take them out to the shop, show them how an ACPM works, and see what their thoughts are on how we could make it better.
Good.
Involve them
Great.
in the problem, if you will, so that they can be a part of the solution.
That's a big takeaway, I think, in general. How to make your team part of the solution. not just giving random feedback darts out there, but all of you guys have all of you panels have suggested like how you got better because of it. So it's like they're part of that. They're part of that solution. It's not just you're part of this team. My wife used to be the director of like nursery and like zero to pre-K at our church, and people would come up to her sometimes and complain about something, and they'd say, um, "Someone's not doing this," and my wife would always say, "No, that's me." Like they would want to be a generic and say, "This like we haven't had an email from telling us what we're doing." Well, that would be me, and just like I'm sorry or whatever. Just like go ahead, put a face to it. It's not just something out there that creates this email. That would be me, or the scheduling was an issue, whatever it may be. All right. Well, thank you very much. I want to thank you so much for your valuable insights, and I know we could go a lot longer. We've been talking about top transportation teams, so I pray that you guys will take a look at this. Yes, I'm getting spiritual here because we really want to get as many people as we can to participate in this program. So it's free. You can enroll right now. You just go to toptransportationteams.com, or you want to pull out your cell phone and scan that QR code. That would be great. And then it'll require you to put your team's email addresses in there, and then they will get these anonymous surveys. And I just want to reiterate, they remain anonymous. We do not know who filled, what each person said about each of those questions. Arnold, if you go to the next slide. We're always looking for not stories. We're looking for how do people do what they do and what lessons they've learned. And the goal is always to grab as many of these as we can, and we put them out in white papers. And it can be how you use technology. It can be your leadership style. I always think of Teri at the top transportation teams panel discussion where she talked about I don't use substitute drivers as a name. I use support drivers. Was that your idea or was that feedback from somebody, by the way? Feedback. You're on mute, but I think I read your feedback. All right. So, you know, any way we can share it doesn't have to be just technology, it could be anything. So please send it to mystory@transfinder.com. And I may ask you to be a panelist. And that doesn't mean that you have to say yes, but we just want to get as many voices and faces on these webinars as we can, because as it's called best practices, we want to grab as many as we can. Lastly, our next webinar is a month from today. I always love that whole February, March thing. The dates are always the same except on leap years. So it's going to be exactly a month from today, March 26th. Working on topics right now. If you want to send at mystory@transfinder.com your suggestion for a webinar you would love to see, we would welcome that feedback. I didn't even think of that in advance, but we'd love to hear your feedback of this would resonate with me because we want these always to be relevant. So without further ado, I just want to thank you all again. Thank all the attendees and your great feedback on this as we were talking and your questions and thoughts. And I want to just thank our panelists for taking so much time out of their busy days to join us. Hope everybody has a good rest of their day.